So mga kababayan, ayun nahanap ko na yung video kung saan, nag-trending kasi itong pahayag ni Senador, Loren Legarda. Ito yung response niya rin at reaksyon do'n sa ginawang, privilege speech ni Senador, Tolentino patungkol sa makakaliwang grupo na gusto niya kasing ayusin itong ating lalo na yung sa SALN. So, no medyo sumama din ang loob ni Senador Loren Legarda nung tawaging, terorista itong tinatawag na makakaliwang grupo. At inamin niya rin dito na sabi niya nga dito, "I declare that I have a work with the National Democratic Front and I'm not ashamed of it." Yun ang sinabi niya dito sa kanyang speech at mamaya mapapanood niyo. At napakaraming mga kababayan ang nadismaya dito kay Senador Loren Legarda. Ang nasasabi niya nga dito ay nakalagay ay "Nabudol tayo." Yan ay sabi ni Wanwan 'no. Ang sabi niya dito, "I'm very disappointed Ma'am Legarda." Yan ang sabi ni Jeffrey. So, hindi ko lang i-complete yung pangalan 'no. Saka malaki at malawak ang mga miyembro ng mga kaliwa at, isa siya sa ibang mayayaman na talaga karamihan, nasa media, yan ang importante sa kanila, ay nakalagay. So, nakalagay man dito, "Tell you what." Sabi dito, "Sasabihin mo sa'kin sinong kaibigan mo at sasabihin ko sa'yo kung sino ka." At napakaraming na-disappoint. Kaya pala, na-trending ngayon itong pahayag ni Senador Loren Legarda patungkol sa issue na itong ano, ito pala ay may ugat dahil nga dito sa privilege speech ay medyo inalmahan niya ito. Kasi yung matandaan ang pinaka main issue dito patungkol sa nangyari doon ata sa Iloilo na inambush ng mga sundalo at kapulisan na napakaraming nasawi. Na yun pala ay isa sa mga kapatid nitong, alam niyo hindi ko na babanggitin at siguro nabanggit niyo rin, ay isa rin sa issue na yun, ay isa sa mga kapatid pala ng mataas na opisyal ng nasa gobyerno. Kapatid niya pala halos 25 years na siyang namumuno dun sa makakaliwang grupo at na yun nga ay nabisto, yun pala ay kapatid ng nanunungkulan mismo sa gobyerno. So, yan ang punto ni Senador Tolentino, gusto niya full disclosure na makita ng taong bayan, makita ng miyembro kung sino ba talaga yung mga kapatid mo na nasa makakaliwang grupo. Nga lang yan ay hindi sinang-ayunan ni Loren Legarda at, nakisawsaw din ito Senador Coco Pimentel. So, sa inyong kapatiran ito na, ipapanood ko na sa inyo itong, privilege, ewan ko lang hindi ito privilege, response ni Senador, Loren Legarda at kayo ng umakto dito mga kababayan at kayo na ring, humusga dito sa kanyang mga sinasabi. Let's go, panoorin natin. Yung pangit kasing audio ng ano natin, hindi na rin ako maglagay ng camera, madilim. At pangit ring audio natin, pagtiyagaan niyo na lang itong boses ko na medyo hindi maganda. Let's go.
Respect the right of our distinguished colleague from Cavite for stating that he does not wish to be interpellated. This representation, Mr. President, would have wanted to not just interpellate, but to be more enlightened on this issue, but it will take so much time. I simply want to state, Mr. President, that believing in an ideology which may be different from the majority, in layman's terms, believing in policies and philosophies which may be left of center, so to speak, does not make anyone subversive. In fact, in 1992, it was former President Fidel V. Ramos who repealed the anti-subversion law. Having said that, Mr. President, I have pushed for the resumption of peace talks. We know that the comprehensive agreement on socio-economic reforms is on the agenda, and this was a legacy of former President Ramos, and I hope that the peace talks can be revived, can ensue, so that the common goal of leaders of our country, whether we are elected in the Senate or even working with a grassroots organization deemed subversive or left by government but not really proven, can work together towards more equity, peace, and authentic, real reforms in the countryside. I will never judge Chair Popoy de Vera, just as I will never judge his sister. I do not know the issue, and I do not know her personally. All I can say is that having celebrated National Heroes Day yesterday, there are many heroes in our midst whom we see and who we do not see or know. Even heroes who may be associated with the CPP.
Wow!
I declare that I have worked with the National Democratic Front, and I am not ashamed of it. I have worked with them, not for them, in my role as a journalist, along with then Minority Leader Aquilino Pimentel. As a young
Kaya pala.
senator, I have worked for the release of captives, both in the police and the military establishment, from the mountains of Davao to the jungles and mountains of Sorsogon in Bicol and in Lianga, Surigao Sur. I have agreed with them on many subject matters close to our heart, and I'm certain that our brilliant lawyer from Cavite will agree that all the elements, the four aspects of CASER must be pushed. Having said that, Mr. President, I would like the anti-terror law to be reviewed. I recall, and I hope my vote was recorded correctly when I was in the House of Representatives at the height of the pandemic, because I did not vote in its favor. And I
No need to explain yan.
do not recall what law or what
Hindi mo na pwede kailangan i-explain.
pronouncement of government has declared the
Di ba? Kung ganyan pa ng paninindigan mo, inamin mo naman pala na I'm work with the Democratic Front. Pero alam naman natin dinagdagan mo na not for them. Pero dinagdagan mo pang sinabi mo na hindi ka bumoto ng anti-terror law. Hindi mo na kailangan i-explain 'yan. Alam na ng taong bayan 'yan eh. Bakit ka bumoto diyan against pala sa kalooban mo 'yan na bobotohin mo 'yan, di ba? Common sense, di ba? So let's go, patuloy natin.
Communist Party of the Philippines or similar organizations, movements, beliefs, associations could be declared as what? Enemies of the state? It's so difficult to identify that. If we see and study what they actually believe and want, it is social justice. It is really uplifting our people from poverty for decades without bearing arms, of course. And the disposition of forces is part of the four elements of CASER. I am in the military establishment. I studied GSC and NDCP. I proudly belong to the AFP Reserve Corps, being a full colonel. I fully respect and associate myself with some of the views and the concerns of the good senator. However, I also would not pass judgment and label, perhaps, certain organizations whose beliefs may be different from the general majority. But when we look at it, we bear similar objectives, vision, dreams for our people. I say that not in contrary to my good friend Senator Tolentino's manifestation today, or those who wish to associate with them. I stand here as someone who has worked with the so-called left of this country and who has admired many of those who share the same vision for a country, who may belong to those who are considered left of center. And there is nothing wrong with that, Mr. President. It does not make anyone subversive. In fact, there's no subversion law. Now, if we are called terrorists for believing in certain beliefs which are considered left, then that's a longer debate altogether.
Defender siya.
All I'm saying is that while I appreciate the manifestation of the good senator from Cavite, I also believe that heroes like Dr. Jose Rizal, who was considered subversive by the Spanish, who was killed in Laguna, is our national hero. Having said that, Mr. President, I thank the good senator from Cavite for raising this very important issue that has propelled discussions and emotions. I do not totally disagree with you, but I think this is a very important subject of discussion, and we will never completely agree with each other. That's why we value our democracy, and that is the reason why we are the Philippine Senate. I will leave it at that, Mr. President. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin po, maraming bayani, hindi man natin kilala, maaring nasa Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, maaring nasa bundok, at hindi alam kung paano bibigyan ng kapayapaan ang ating bansa, pero isa lang ang ating adikain.
Naligaw na talaga to siya, mga kababayan.
Matanggal na natin ang matagal na nating nararanasang kahirapan at marating na natin the long evasive peace. It has evaded us for decades on. Thank you, Mr. President.
So, parang, ito komento ko lang mga kababayan, observation ko. Ang nangyari dito, parang naging defender siya eh. Naging defender siya ng binabanggit niyang grupo. Kasi, wala akong nakitang masama doon sa sinabi ni Senador Tolentino eh. Okay naman yun eh. Favor yun sa gobyerno eh. Pero itong counterpart ni Miss Loren Legarda ay against naman sa government. Di ba? Kinokontra niya. So, may respond din dito si Senador Tolentino dito sa sinasabi niya. At ang kasunod kasi nito mga kababayan, pagkatapos ng response si Senador Risa Ontiveros. Pero iwan ko lang kung gusto niyo panoorin. Pero gusto ko lang ipaano sa inyo yung sinabi ni maraming bansa kasi nagdeklara na itong grupo na ito ay alam niyo na ito, panoorin niyo na lang din si Senador Tolentino yung pakinggan natin para sa kanya mismo nanggaling ito.
Mr. President, just a minute of response. I thank the good distinguished lady from Capiz for her remarks. Indeed, I am not ascribing any fault on the part of the personalities.
Dalawa na yan,
Perhaps,
magkaano pala talaga, magkadugo.
the names that I mentioned.
Kaya
Just for the
pala.
record, Mr. President, the CPP-NPA has been declared as a terrorist organization by the European Union, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, and a number of other countries, Mr. President, and including perhaps a greater bulk of the members of the UN Security Council. Just for the record, Mr. President. But again, I appreciate and thank the distinguished lady from Capiz, Panay, for her response.
Ay, kaya pa taga-Panay din pala to?
Thank you, Mr. President.
May we recognize
Gusto ko panoorin na lang natin itong sinabi ni Risa Hontiveros mga kababayan. Alam naman natin, similar ito kay Loren Legarda. Pero gusto ko lang itong mapakinggan kasi ang kasunod nito parang si Senador Robin Padilla ata nagsalita dito. Pero isisingit ko lang ito. Interesado din ako sa sinabi ni Risa Hontiveros kung ano ba talagang binabanggit niya dito. Kasi alam niyo itong video na ito ay hindi ko naman ito talaga napanood pa. So gusto kong panoorin ito. Let's go. Iksi lang ito mga 2 minutes siguro.
distinguished colleague, Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Salamat kaayo, Mr. President. I would just, who is myself a social democrat, a democratic socialist, someone who proudly counts herself in the ranks of the democratic left, or what the good as pro tempore for her passionate manifestation in response to the privileged speech of the good gentleman from Cavite. I thank her, Mr. President, as a member of this Senate who is myself a social democrat, a democratic socialist, someone who proudly counts herself in the ranks of the democratic left, or what the good Senate President pro tempore called left of center. I thank her for her manifestation, Mr. President, as someone who worked for many years also in the peace movement, and particularly in the government peace negotiating panel with the CPP, NPA, NDF. I thank her, Mr. President, for her manifestation as someone who has my own deep disagreements with the CPP, NPA, NDF. And I thank her, Mr. President, as the widow of a PMA graduate, Mista of Senator Doroy de la Rosa, a PNP officer with whom I came to share the dream of security sector reforms for a reformed and modernized national police, without which, like a modernized and professional armed forces, no state can effectively and well govern the people. Maraming salamat at mabuhay po kayo, Senate President pro tempore, for the overall spirit of your manifestation. Salamat kaayo, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are here to agree to disagree in so many ways, Mr. President, and that's the essence of democracy. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we refer the
So, hanggang diyan na lang mga kababayan. Mamaya ipapakita ko dito itong markahan ko na lang muna ito para hindi tayo maligaw. So, ito, si Senador Ruben Padilla. Gusto ko mapanood yung kanyang counterpart din. Hindi ko lang alam kung anong tema yung mga sinasabi niya dyan. Kasi kung diretsuhin natin ay nagsalita din dito sa dulo, si Senador Grace po mga kababayan eh. So, sa akin lang ay medyo ito si Rizal. So, may exciting na part pala yan. So, mamaya na natin parang suspend, kumbaga. So, yung kay Loren Legarda, yun nga, napakaraming nadismaya. Sabi nga nila kung noon pa lang ay alam namin, hindi na namin yung binoto. Meron pa nagsabi na bodol sila. Yun pala ay, yun. Kaya pala yung anak ay sabi nila, no, hindi nadamay pati anak. So, yan ay binabasa ko lang. Sabi, ay kaya pala anti-Marcos yung anak. Di ba? Napakasimple naman ang kahilingan doon sa privilege speech ni Senador Senador Tolentino. Ang gusto niya full disclosure na para malaman kung sino yung mga kamag-anak mo ay kung saan-saan, kung sino sila para makita. Pero parang hindi nila masunod dahil nga alam mo na, yun pala ay sa inamin niya nagwo-work sa pala doon. Kaya pala ay hindi siya bumoto doon sa anti-terror law, 'di ba? Alam niyo dapat sa yung mga botante titingnan sana ng mga ganun-ganun bagay para maging aware. So, yan lang muna mga kababayan yung ating video. At ang kasunod ay kay Senador Ruben Padilla. Siguro yun ang last part. Pero medyo kayo naman masga dito ha. At comment kayo ang reaction niyo about dito sa video ni Senador Loren Legarda.